Hello Mzansi, you are listening to Farmers Inside Track, proudly brought to you by Food for Mzansi. My name is Patricia Tembo, your host, and welcome to episode 561. So in today's episode, we're looking at Goss's wilt, how the disease spreads, and the best practical prevention and management strategies that you can apply on the farm. This episode is set to be both informative and practical as we welcome Neo Hlongwane, who is a research and development lead at Pathologist Seeds, South Africa. Neo Hlongwane, welcome to Farmers Inside Track. I'm so excited to speak to you today, especially, with today's topic being a current issue for crop producers in the country, for maize producers. So Neo, welcome. Looking forward to just hearing you sharing your insights on Farmers Inside Track today.
Hi, Patricia. I'm so happy to be here, and I don't want to lie, I'm looking forward to the conversation that we are going to have.
Yes, okay. Before we get into it, of course, I know you, but some of our listeners may not be familiar with you. You are a research and development lead at Pathologist Seeds. I know you also have your master's in plant pathology. But just to give an idea for our listeners, to introduce yourself, maybe explain your current role in the industry, and maybe a fun fact about the work that you're currently doing or something that excites you. I think that will be also interesting to hear.
My name is Neo Hlongwane, and I'm currently based in Pretoria. I'm working at Pathologist Seeds, South Africa, where I'm a research and development lead. So my work is to basically make sure that the seeds that we are selling to the farmers are of high quality, and whatever that we put on the seeds is there, because we code our seed to boost your germination and make sure that they can stand the challenges in the field. As you know, we have both biotic and abiotic stressors. So we just want to make sure that our product stands out, and yes, the farmer is able to get what they need. And yes, I did both my BSc and Masters at the University of the Free State, where I was majoring in plant pathology. My master's research was much more on the seed-borne pathogens of soybean. So that's where my love for the seed industry started. I'm going to take what I like about my job. It's that thing of waking up early, wanting to make sure that the farmer receives the best seed. It excites me. It makes me want to wake up and do the work.
I really love that. You are excited and passionate about what you do, because usually when someone is passionate about what they do, they're able to relate to farmers and explain and expand, topics really well. So today we are looking at Goss's wilt, prevention and management. I'm not sure if it's all provinces, but it was recently confirmed in most provinces in the country at the time of recording this podcast. So it is an issue that our farmers are facing, maize producers specifically. But just to give us a foundation of Goss's wilt before we get into management and prevention, what is it? What causes it? I know it's a bacterial disease. So yeah, please explain to us, what is Goss's wilt?
You are right, Patricia. It is a problem in our country. So Goss's wilt is a bacterial disease of maize that is caused by a pathogen known as Clavibacter michiganensis subspecies nebraskaensis. Also, it's synonymous to Clavibacter nebraskaensis. It targets mostly your cereal and some crop species, such as maize being the most important, and then sorghum and related crops. So this pathogen, it thrives mostly in hot and humid your environmental conditions, and it is a regulated disease in South Africa because we want to limit the spread and the movement of host material and agricultural equipment from infected to non-infected regions. And you were right, we have all the 8 provinces that have shown presence except KZN. So KZN is the only province that is not infected.
As you've said now, it spreads, and usually we'd hear crop diseases being spread by pests, and I think this one is unique in that it's bacterial. Maybe if you can explain exactly how does Goss's wilt spread between farms and regions? As you said, all the provinces besides KZN are affected, so it means it spreads quite easily. Could you talk us through how the disease actually spreads?
So this pathogen spreads easily through your infected crop residue, through rain or irrigation water, and then some contaminated agricultural equipment. Because farmers are a team, right? So they will want to maybe borrow a friend and equipment that they can use on their farm. So that is one of the major ways it spreads. And although it has not been confirmed as a seed-borne pathogen, it can be transmitted by infested seeds or be carried by seeds or grain that was harvested from a farm that was infected with it. Maybe if I can just clarify, because seed-borne and transmitted by disease. So a seed-borne pathogen is a pathogen that, like when you plant that seed is going to grow a seedling that has the disease. So if it is just carried on the seed, it's just on the surface, not really inside the seed. So that is the difference between infested and seed-borne. The seed-borne is infected.
So Goss's wilt is solely a seed-borne pathogen or disease?
No, it has not been confirmed
It
as a
hasn't been.
seed-borne.
Okay, so there's still ongoing research on exactly how
Ongoing research.
how it's incubated and all of that. I remember speaking to a scientist recently, also said that it's still something that they are researching currently and how the pathogen itself does.
It survives, yeah.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And looking at the crop now and when it's affected, you mentioned that it's cereal crop species that is usually affected by the pathogen. So that would be maize and including crops like sorghum. What are the signs farmers should look out for on their crop?
So here I want to say inspection is very important. As a farmer, you must try to check your field to see if there are any abnormalities. So your signs or symptoms would be seeing your plants dying prematurely, wilting, or like when you cut your stalk, you will see some brown or reddish streaks in the vascular tissue with a smelly bacterial exudate. And on your leaves, there will be some irregular water-soaked lesions that turn tan or brown with dark borders. These lesions are mostly visible near the silking growth stage. As a result, your older plants will fail to reach its optimal production phase, affecting your overall yield.
Did you say it affects at seedling crop stage?
That's when it is deadly.
Symptoms are observed. Is it only during the seedling crop stage?
No, they can be observed from the seedling stage, which is I'm advising the farmers to do some periodic inspection to see if they can see those signs.
I think you've mentioned now different symptoms or signs of an infected crop. So, for example, wilting, right, can be due to many different things. How can a farmer actually know, like, okay, this is because of Goss's wilt and not because of some, maybe a nutrient deficiency or over irrigation or whatever it is? How does a farmer know exactly that it is because of Goss's wilts?
This disease, Goss's wilt, is mostly confused with your drought or northern corn leaf blight and the stewart wilt, as they have similar symptoms. The most important characteristic of this disease would be the water-soaked lesions with the shiny bacterial exudates. So these are your slimy thing that has a bad smell. That's when you know you have that Goss's wilt. All the other characteristics can be easily confused with your drought, your northern corn leaf blight, and stewart. But the most distinguishing factor of the Goss's wilt is the water-soaked lesions and the exudates.
We spoke earlier about how it actually spreads. So what are the biosecurity practices that a farmer can implement? I think you also said, we know that farmers they work together, teamwork, as you said, sharing equipment, things like that. So With all of that in mind and, the day-to-day activities farmers do, implement on their farms, what are the key biosecurity practices that farmers should implement to reduce the spreading the disease?
So sanitation will be your first, because this is a bacterial disease. So you want to make sure that before and after using your farm equipment, you sterilize it to make sure that it is clean of any pathogen that might be on it. And then I'd say you want to inform your farm workers that they should also follow the sanitation practice. They must disinfect their boots, because these are people that go in and out of the farm almost every day. So I'd say to reduce the spread, you also have to make sure as a farmer that you know what comes into your farm. Because not just with equipment, farmers can exchange seeds or they can trade seeds. So you want to make sure that you know where that seed comes from and if there was any diseases where it was harvested, That is how you limit the spread.
And we'll definitely get more into the seed, the role that seed actually can play in preventing or managing Goss's wilt. But before we get to that, when a farmer has identified Goss's wilts on their field, they've spotted the water-soaked lesions that you said are characteristic of the pathogen itself. What should they do? I suppose at that point, it's already spread to the entire field, perhaps. So what steps should a farmer take when they have actually identified that, okay, no, I actually have Goss's wilt on my farm?
I think if you don't have the experience, you can't be certain whether it's Goss's wilt or what. So your first step when you suspect that there is presence of this deadly disease, you must contact an official from the Department of Agriculture Directorate of Plant Health or someone from the Grain SA team. So those people are going to tell you what steps to follow, because they work closely with the plant pathology clinics that are focusing on this disease. Where you said earlier, there's ongoing research. So they are the ones in front of any matters relating to managing this disease and making sure that it does not affect our farmers in a more negative economic way.
So is it important that farmers do report it on their farm? Is there ever maybe a scenario where, say, a farmer is experienced that they just decide to handle it themselves, or is it recommended that you definitely report it on to the department or to Grain SA?
I don't know any farmer that has ever taken measures by themselves, but it is advisable for you to report it, because now we want to raise awareness. We want to make other farmers in your region. And because, like we said earlier, you can confuse the symptoms and the signs, right? So you want to send it for sampling so that it can be confirmed. Otherwise, you will be wasting your money and resources on something that is not what you thought it is.
I love that you mentioned now wasting money and resources, because I think that's the whole point for a farmer, is that you're not trying to lose money. So the best way to ensure that you don't lose is to seek out the experts who will be able to best advise about the pathogen and the disease on the farm. Thank you so much. Now looking at management, because it's bacterial, I'm assuming that its management is quite tricky. Now, it's not like treating a pest. So what can farmers do? Are there any chemical methods available? We know biosecurity is the main prevention method, and maybe also management if it is on the farm or has identified on the farm, but is it available? Are there biological control methods available for farmers currently to deal with the disease?
This is one of those questions I like the most, because I work with crop protection. Yes. Currently, there are no known registered products for farmers to use for the management of this disease. But there is an ongoing research that is looking to develop an effective product. To add to this, there are other management strategies farmers can employ, like the first one being sanitation, right? Now you have confirmed that your farm has the presence of this bacteria. You have to make sure that you clean your equipment, and then using your resistant certified hybrid seeds. Yeah, you want to use your resistant certified. That certified, I'm repeating it because it is important. And then your tillage practice method to make sure that you bury your infected crop residue. And then implementation of strong residue and weed management. This is implemented to make sure that you reduce the amount of the inoculum in the field, and then your crop rotation with non-host crops such as soybean, sunflower, and alfalfa.
We can actually go into speaking about seeds now that you have touched on it. As you've said, it's important that, farmer gets resistant certified hybrid seeds. So again, as I've mentioned earlier, I think it's very easy for farmers. There are a lot of people who would want to take advantage of a farmer who is, worried about Goss's wilt on their farm and say, oh, this seed, you'll never get Goss's wilt, or even like we said earlier, like, oh, this chemical, you won't get Goss's wilt. But as you've said, there's no known registered chemicals for it. So when we're looking at seed, how can a farmer ensure that this is certified? It's not a hoax, I'm not being tricked. Like, how do I know that this is a certified hybrid seed?
So the seed you use as a farmer is the best investment you can do for yourself. So going for certified hybrid seeds with resistance or tolerance to the disease. If you want to check the credibility of the person you are buying a seed from, I would advise the farmer to go to the Sanso website and look for a member company that sells maize hybrid seeds. So your Sanso is an organization that is responsible for the regulations of seeds in South Africa. You want to make sure that you go there and check if the person you are buying seed from is a member of that, because sometimes we have your technical people on the ground. Yeah. You want to verify their story before you buy seeds. And usually seeds from these companies, they would have been tested for a variety of characteristics and are what they say they are. But before you decide on which cultivar you want to go for, ask for information like your characteristics, like resistance to the disease, and if it is suited to your region. So before they sell to you, let's say I'm in the Free State, I cannot buy the seed that was only tested in Limpopo because the environmental conditions are not the same. So you want to make sure that this seed that I'm buying has been tested in the region that I'm planting it.
And maybe to go even deeper into that, what is the role of hybrid seed varieties? Why is it important that a farmer is actually looking for these characteristics in the seed?
Your hybrid seeds, they are your high-yielding uniform plants that are bred by crossing two parental lines to combine the desirable traits such as your disease-resistant, drought, or faster growth or nutrition. So it is important for you as a farmer to consider such because it has been tested for many characteristics that will ensure that you as a farmer can get a high yield. Because at the end of the day, as a farmer, you want to produce an optimal yield. You have a standard for what you can achieve, right? So if you use these hybrids, they can stand many biotic and abiotic stressors. I would recommend hybrids because of that genetics of theirs.
And as we said earlier, the whole point is to minimize losses when it comes to Goss's wilt, because that's at the day what would affect the farmer's profitability. So you've mentioned now in seed is maybe one of the most important investments a crop producer would make. Can you explain how else losses can be minimized when dealing with this disease? So seed is one of them, investing in seed. If there are other maybe methods or ways a farmer can minimize financial losses when it comes to Goss's wilt.
So minimizing yield, just like we said now, seed is one of those. And there are other agronomic aspects of it. You must know the requirements of the crop that you are growing so that you can provide an environment that will ensure that it performs the best. Because a seed is a living thing, so consider yourself as a human. There are things you need for yourself to be like a normal you, the best version of yourself. So the agronomic aspects are important, and the time of planting, Those are some of the aspects a farmer can do, because we can't ignore the fact that at some point you can realize that I have a problem on my farm. I would advise for farmers to act as fast as they can, because let's say if only 5% of your farm is affected, the earlier you act, the better it will be for you, because you will be stopping it from spreading to other crops.
I don't know if we've touched everything that a farmer would need to know how to prevent and manage Goss's wilt, but if there isn't, is there anything else that is important that maybe we haven't spoken about yet?
Yes, I think the only thing that we haven't touched would be the surveillance or reporting systems that farmers can engage with. So we do have plant pathology disease clinics at your ARC, the UP, the Fabi Institute, and the Stellenbosch University, where they are working with the Department of Agriculture and Grain SA to surveil and report cases of Goss's wilt. So farmers should maybe contact the Department of Agriculture at Directorate Plant Health and the Grain SA Research Coordination Team, so that they can be advised on how to handle Goss's wilt if it is present, or they can just send a sample to confirm whether what they are observing is really Goss's wilt or it is something else.
These channels are available for any farmer who may be suspecting Goss's wilt in their field.
Yes, it is available for every farmer, because an injury to one farmer is an injury to all the farmers. Like we are seeing, it can spread to almost everywhere. So the sooner we contain the problem at a certain location, the better it will be for the other farmers in that same region.
So thank you very much for taking the time and preparing for the podcast and informing those listening. Don't have to worry about Goss's wilt on the farm, but if they do, they know now how to manage and go about reporting it. So thank you so much.
Thank you to you, Patricia, and Food from Zanzi, the work that you guys are doing. I really hope this information will get to just save one farm. One farm is important to the food security of our country now.
Thank you so much to Neo Hlongwane, who is a research and development lead at Baranbrug Seeds South Africa. And if you'd like to read the article, you can definitely visit www.foodformzanzi.co.za. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. From myself, Patricia Tembo, our technical producer, Megan van der Vent, and the rest of #Team Food for Mzansi, thank you for listening and keep growing with us.